From across the pond, this is Off the Record with Big C.
Yeah, this is Big C, and we're expecting. Oh, we've got Neil Fisher. Hello, Neil. He's on the screen.
Hi, Colin.
If you're watching whatever, you could be watching on Facebook, on the Off the Record Facebook page. We are also streaming live to Twitter, or X as it's now called. We are excreting. We decided that's the way to term it. We're excreting on X rather than tweeting. And Jazzy Jeff was meant to be with us, but we've had a few technical issues with Jeff. We can't see or hear him, so there's a little empty box with Jeff's name on it, just waiting for him to arrive if he can get onto us. But if I'll keep in contact with him, obviously on my phone as well, to see if I can get any songs from him that he might want to mention. Hello, Jeff. Anyway, the two of us can get on with what we can do, at least, in the meantime. Off the Record, this is Season 6. Thanks very much, Shaggy, as usual. Episode 15. Overall, that's 155, so it's episode 155. I would say I've got returning guests, returning favourites. Neil Fisher, who I already mentioned to, is there. He's with me now. Well, he's not with me personally, but he's on the screen, down in the southern part of England, around, I don't know, is it somewhere between Southampton and Winchester or somewhere down that way?
No, it's 30 minutes sort of southwest of London.
Oh, okay, all right then. That covers quite a lot, really, doesn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, farm away.
When you come up, it does come up as Southampton on the when you're listening on the CBW radio these days. And Jazzy Jeff, if he does join us, he'll be with us today, and we're going to discuss today the output of the Rolling Stones. Okay, and they've had a number of albums, a number of singles over the years, and we are going to sort of run the rule over. Well, I don't know how quite we're going to work this out, but maybe run the rule over the albums, if there are any particular tracks. What I've done is list the albums, and I've sort of selected sort of highlights for me personally from those albums, and see whether any of them tie up with Neil's. At the end of the day, at the end of the show, I'll be able to sort of highlight, put a ring round my 10 favourite Stone songs. It's not very easy, but you know, it's got to be done, isn't it, for this show? Picking your favourites, whether they're album tracks, whether they're singles, whether they're B-sides. I'm sure, Neil, you've had a bit of fun. You were saying you had a bit of fun listening to some old Stones albums that maybe you haven't heard for a while.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a bit of a task, this one, going through, because obviously, 31 studio albums, or the 24 UK studio albums. It's a pretty mammoth task, and to be honest, I didn't get through them all in the end. I sort of got to about the mid-80s and more or less forgot the rest, because I don't think it was that much.
I think you're right. I mean, like many bands, for me, it's another one of those bands that after the 80s, well, after the 70s actually, in many cases, that the bands just, I don't they run out of ideas, but they change their style a little bit, and they don't necessarily appeal to me. You're right, though. 24 albums they've had in the UK. Yeah. In the US, they've had a few more, but they had sort of spread out the tracks a little bit more, didn't they? Included singles on the albums that we didn't over here. You've got to have a single on an album over there, it would appear. Yeah. Did the same with the Beatles, of course. That's the first mention of the Beatles today, by the way. During the 60s.
It won't be the last.
I'm sure it won't be. 48. I've got a list of 48 hit singles, so we're talking 75. I thought it would have been more than that, actually.
They've released 122 singles.
Yeah, but
according to Wikipedia, anyway.
In the noughties, probably. They haven't had any hits at all, have they? Maybe actually, they had a hit with the last one.
Angry, wasn't it? Was it Angry?
Yeah, Angry, 2023 from the latest album. But hit singles, of which 8 were number 1 singles in the UK. Whether or not we'll choose any of those as their favourites, possibly so. And the albums I've got down, they had 11 number 1 albums in the UK, which isn't a bad record out of 24, is it?
Pretty good.
It is. Singles wise, I think after 69 they didn't have any number 1s. The last one was 69. So the age old question. I mean, are you a Beatles or a Stones man generally, Neil? Before you answer that question, I would say there is only one correct answer to this. And if you get the wrong answer, you might not be asked back on the podcast. If that's
indeed. Jeff's just appeared in the window.
He has, yeah, but can we hear him? Can we hear you,
Can you
Jeff?
hear me?
I can hear you, and you're
Yes.
not jittering around, which is wonderful. Excellent.
Well, whatever I did clearly worked.
It did.
I turned you off and turned you on again. That's what I did.
Turned you off and on again. That generally works, doesn't it?
It does. Sorry about that, chaps.
That's
Nice
all
to
right.
see
No
you.
worries. I know it was a little bit hurried because you'd just been performing in the Ash Wednesday in the church, had you not?
I
So
was.
maybe
Yeah.
you came in. You're all flustered. Maybe
I was
something
flustered.
you didn't put the right thing in the right hole.
My
At some point.
widget clearly got mislaid.
It was something.
Thank you for putting up with me.
No, we always put up with you. Well worth coming on. Oh, I just introduced the show. This is Jazzy Jeff in Buckerstill in Essex.
I have heard everything that you two have just said. So.
Oh right, okay, fair
up.
enough. So you know I just asked the $64 million question to Neil. Actually, was he a Beatles or a Stones man?
Well,
And he hasn't given me the answer yet.
no, I'm still considering what is the right answer. No, when I was younger, I was more of a Stones fan. I think because I was rock music was my genre, so particularly classic rock. Stones fitted that more than the Beatles. But as I got older, probably appreciate the Beatles more now than I certainly did then, and probably just about prefer them to the Stones.
When you got older, you got wiser. I think.
Well, yeah, definitely. So when you get into your 40s and your music taste expand probably a bit more as you get older.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you had to put me up against the wall now, I'd say the Beatles.
Okay, fair enough. What about you, Jeff? Are you more Stones?
100% Beatles.
100% Beatles.
So like,
good answer. You can come back.
I was thinking about this earlier. If you had nailed me to the wall before I did any prep for this week, I could have named one Rolling Stones album without effort.
Wow.
What, the album title or anything on it?
Yeah, that would have been Sticky Fingers, and that's only because of the cover.
All right, yeah.
I would have said to you, maybe Exile and Main Street is the Stones, but I'm not certain. It could be someone else.
It is.
And that would have been it. Like, I own 40 licks, so everything that I've looked at and done for this evening comes off 40 licks.
Well, why not? Because they got the best songs on there, haven't they, really?
Yeah. And as you quite rightly said earlier, anything from 1970, whatever it was on, was pretty pants anyway.
Yeah. It wasn't as good at all.
Now, but having said that, and having done everything that I've done for this evening, which is not masses, they did some really good songs back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I had either forgotten or not really dealt with it, because the Rolling Stones held the same situation in our house, like Mum and Dad's house, as ITV. Like, basically, we weren't allowed them.
They were
naughty boys, and they did bad things. So it was kind of frowned upon.
That was the projected image in the media, of course. But I think the Beatles were a little bit naughty at times as well. In fact, the Beatles weren't allowed in my house after about 1966. I mean,
Really?
Yellow Submarine was the last single that I was bought by the band, because they started doing, funny things. They went a bit odd after that, didn't they?
But at least they wrote a good tune. Which
they did indeed.
The Rolling Stones just shouted at you, you see.
Yes, they did. That's true. That's probably what your mum and dad said.
Exactly.
Yeah. I probably the Beatles were more original, I would have said. Was that a fair comment? The Stones were quite traditionally just a rockin' blues band, really. And I mean, I know Stinky Pete would argue that they've changed over the years. They haven't really a great deal, I don't think. They've stuck to the sound that they're good at. And they're damn good at it, to be fair. It's just the songs weren't as good, apart from the odd one thrown in more recently. But as Beatles versus Stones, but I was thinking this when I was doing the prep, like you, Jeff. Not that I've done a great deal, because there's so many Stones albums to think about, or songs. I was thinking maybe more, the Beach Boys were maybe more the Beatles' sort of competition, if you like, across the pond, in terms of their originality and their harmonies or whatever, rather than the Stones. But I know you're not a great Beach Boys fan, Neil, are you?
No, not at all. No,
No.
there are songs I like, but as a I don't own any of their albums. I've listened to a few, but no, just don't do it for me.
Don't do it. Okay, fair enough. Great harmonisers, to be fair, the Beach
Yes,
Boys,
yeah.
in my humble opinion.
Brian Wilson was genius.
Brian Wilson was a genius, yeah.
Absolute musical genius.
And
loopy as a fruitcake.
But each of their albums, the Beach Boys and the Beatles, and they seemed to encourage one another, didn't they? One would have Rubber Soul, the next one would have Pet Sounds, and then there would be Sergeant Pepper, and then there'd be Smiley Smile or whatever, and they sort of followed one another in that respect. Also, the Stones only had a label, well, they probably would have done anyway, but George Harrison recommended, after Dick Rowe at Decca, an aptly named guy called Dick, turned down the Beatles at Decca because guitar bands are out. They went for Brian Poole and the Tremolos in the end, which is another band, but from London, I guess. So George Harrison recommended the Stones, and of course the rest is history with Decca. But enough
Only
talking
until
about
1970.
Sorry?
Only until 1970 or 69, wasn't it? With Decca.
Oh yeah, that's true. Of course, they had their own label, didn't they? After that, indeed. Right. Okay. Well, as I said, I don't know whether you heard, Jeff. What I was going to do was run through the albums slowly, not too slowly, obviously within the time constraints, but just sort of pinpoint my personal favourites from the album. Some of the songs might even be on 40 licks. You might be lucky, Jeff. Not sure some of the earlier ones. But as I said, they've had 24 albums, as Neil said as well, 24 UK albums. And the first one, I'm going to start straight away then. First one was simply called The Rolling Stones, and it was out in 64. And it was there's only, I think, you might know more about this than me, Neil, as a big rocking Stones fan. There's only one original song on it, I believe.
Yep, the rest are all covers of 50s and
bluesy stuff.
Bluesy type stuff, yeah.
Yeah. The one song of their own, which, funny enough, I've listed down as, I've chosen 3 songs from this. You probably know the songs, Jeff, even if you don't know their versions of at least 2 of them anyway. The song I'm thinking of that they wrote was Tell Me. Tell Me You're Coming Back to Me. But I remember that by a new wave band, a Cleveland band, actually. I think they're from Cleveland. The Dead Boys. In the 70s, they were on Sire, and they did a cover. A lot of these songs of the early Stones, I hadn't really heard them until I heard them done by other people, and then you listened back. It's a bit like Take It or Leave It, another Stones song, which the Searchers covered. When we got a golden hour of the Searchers in the 60s, I thought, oh, Jacka Richards. And I hadn't heard the Stones version, but that comes later on Aftermath. But I've gone for simply the Chuck Berry cover, Carol, and Route 66, which, as Jeff does know, was originally recorded by
the Nat King Cole Trio.
The Nat King Cole Trio, yeah. But a good rocking opening song to the Stones' debut album. And
have you listened to it carefully?
The Nat King Cole
or 66 version?
The Stones version.
Charlie Watts speeds up halfway through it.
Does he?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. They start at one beat, and then you suddenly realise that they've got faster.
Oh, really?
And it's all Charlie Watts' fault. You can hear Charlie Watts speeding up.
Really? Wow. The story about him, was one of the songs where he is alleged by Jagger, I think it was, or Richards, that the beat was too complicated for him.
Yes, I've got that as one of the ones that I chose.
Is it Tumbling Dice, maybe?
It was Tumbling Dice.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll come on to that when we do Exile on Main Street. But yeah, well, that's interesting. But it shows how the drummer can lead the band. Yeah, I bet Ringo never did that. But Carol, you can't really go wrong with the Chuck Berry song, can you? I don't think. You can't do a bad Chuck Berry cover. They're just 12-bar blues, rock and roll, great lyrics. And the Stones did a good version of it too. Are you keen on any of the first 2 albums, Rolling Stones or Rolling Stones #2, Neil?
No, not particularly. Even the third one, Out of Our Heads, is not. I think that's only got 3 originals on it, and all the rest are covers.
I've got down here.
So, to be honest, I sort of ignored all 3 of those
the early ones. All right, okay.
The
only one I've got.
I like their own songs.
They didn't start them for a little while, did they? That was
Yeah.
another thing they were behind on the other band, what we mentioned before. Um,
I've
The
picked two
Kinks.
songs from 1964, but I don't think either of them are on the album.
You're probably right. The only ones I can think of on Rolling Stones #2, it's another cover. They're all covers, as I said. Neil said, um, I'm not sure even how many covers are on the second. I don't know, but anyway, I've got another cover down the road a piece, which is a great song. Time is on my side, which isn't one of their songs, but it's on there, and another Chuck Berry song, You Can't Catch Me, and Out of Our Heads, as Neil said, was 65. I wonder whether or not we should stick to 64 then with Jeff. Presumably they were singles. I'm having a
Yeah, I've picked It's All Over Now,
well, yeah, that would
The
be.
Womack song,
I
and
think that
Not
would be
Fade
one of
Away.
mine.
Not Fade Away was Buddy Holly did it brilliantly, and actually the Stones did it really, really well. Keith Richards plays like the jangly 12 string, which makes a big difference to it. But yeah, I just think they're both good songs, and I think the Stones. My big issue with the Stones, let's get this out of the way now, is Mick Jagger can't sing. So he's got a really good soft voice, and actually a lot of the ones that I've picked, he's singing lower in his range. As soon as he starts tightening his throat, and you get the sound that everyone knows is Jagger's voice,
Yeah.
I go, yeah, I don't like this. Can't cope with it at all. It irks me.
Oh, don't want
As
you.
a Stones fan, I sort of agree with you, Jeff. I think he's not a great singer, but he's a great vocalist. What he
Okay.
does with his voice is brilliant, I think. He uses the falsetto a little bit too much sometimes, I think. Um, Certainly in some songs, but I just think what he does with his voice, it's not about how it sounds the right way, but he doesn't sing someone like Paul Rodgers is a fantastic
Yeah.
singer as well as a great vocalist, but Jagger uses his voice fantastically on the songs.
Yeah.
I'll put it
I
that
get
way.
that.
You don't have to be a great singer though, as we've
No, you
established on
don't.
this
No.
occasion, to be a great vocalist. And yeah, was it not Fade Away? I was just trying to check this out, but I can't find it on there. It might have been that. Was it their first US hit or something? Maybe I think
It
it
was
might.
number one. It was their first US number one.
Yeah.
First US #1. Okay, and funny enough, It's All Over
And
Now
It's All Over Now was
was the
first
first
UK number
UK
one.
#1. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think I love It's All Over Now, actually. I would have come on to that later on, but since you've got it in your 64 list, I would have had that in the singles because there were a few just issued as singles over here at least. That's one of them. As you said, is it a Bobby Womack song, isn't it?
Yeah. Wait, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that's 64. We're going to whiz through these early years, I think, then. I mean, out of our heads, funny enough, the only song I've got, even though there were 3 originals on there, the only one I've got that I semi-like is a weird cover, unlike anything else they've done, which is the Under Assistant West Coast Promotion Man. Do you know that one? It goes along like that. And
We
that's as
like the
much
actions.
yeah, you like that. It's good on. It's not good on Spotify though, is it?
On the podcast, that's not going to work, is it? Spotify's
No,
going to go,
not
what?
not on the Spotify. But anyway, that's that. Okay, well let's move on to Aftermath. You got anything for 65 then, Neil? Or
Yes. Yep. So Aftermath is a great album. What's it open? Was it open with Painted Black, doesn't it?
well, in America it did. It doesn't over here.
Yeah, that's right. Because that's one of I've listed my 10 favourite going through this process.
Yes.
Painted Black is on there. Absolutely cracking song. Just sort of bit jangly guitar. Was it a sitar? Was it?
Guitar, yeah, Brian Jones.
Yeah,
on the
Yeah,
sitar,
I think obviously George Harrison used it on Norwegian Wood, and
yeah, 65.
um, I think who was the keyboard? Ian, was it Ian Stewart? Or
Yeah. Ian Stewart in the Stones. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, he bought the sitar for Brian Jones because Brian Jones was really impressed with the sitar playing on Norwegian Wood.
Mm,
And 3 months later, they recorded "Paint It Black."
yes.
Just such a great song. And what it's about, I don't know, but it's a really, really great song.
Well, yeah, that would be on one of my. That would be one of my 10, I'm sure. Painted Black.
Arguably, I think it's their defining song. I'm not certain they ever bettered it. Personally,
A quite clean sweep there on with Painted Black. Clean sweep. Number one on both sides of the pond as well. I'm not sure. Yeah, I suppose they were the ones before that. They did that. But yeah, Painted Black, great song. Sitar. Apparently they had there was a comma. It didn't have a comma, Painted Black, but when Decca issued it initially, there were some dodgy copies of it or something, where
Yeah,
someone had accidentally at Decca put a comma after painted.
yeah.
So there were accusations of sort of racism involved in that as well, which was a bit ludicrous.
they're probably worth a fortune now if you can find them.
Maybe so. Maybe Neil's got some.
No, I haven't.
Shame. Because Neil is a master. He's a talented guy. He's a vinyl dealer as well. So if you want it, I'm sure he'll try and find it for you. But then he'll keep it himself, no doubt.
I've got a rather nice copy of Beggar's Banquet though, which is one of the very, very early. Well, I think it's the first press and worth a couple of £100. But we'll come on to that a bit later.
Yes. Okay. So Aftermath, it wasn't Painted Black in the States that it opened. It was Mother's Little Helper.
Mother's Little Helper, and that's on my Bubbling Under Mother's Little Helper. Obviously about Valium or whatever the brand name would be. But another really good song. I love the way it just ding 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 ding.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what it is, a harpsichord or whatever is played at that point.
It probably is. Maybe Jeff knows more. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mother's Little Helper. That's probably. Is that on 40 Licks as well?
It is on it, yeah, but I don't remember it.
Okay,
Sorry.
fair enough.
I have got one from '65 though, so whether it's on Aftermath or not, I'm not certain.
Go on then, tell us.
19th Nervous Breakdown.
No, I'm not sure that was on an album, was it? That was
No, I think it was just a single, wasn't it?
A standalone single, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's a really good song.
Here he comes.
Yeah.
It's a really good song. And what Keith Richards does on it is I don't know whether it's the first one, but he sets out the way that he plays the guitar. He plays his guitar with sort of like a bum. I can't. It's like a bum bum with a little stop in it. If you and you listen to quite a lot of the stuff that follows, he plays the same style of rhythm. But I think this is the first time he does it. Because it's their own song, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And it just kind of defines where he's going. But it's a good song. I like it.
Well, we've gone through 65 and neither of you have picked up on, and neither have I, to be honest. So it was Satisfaction.
Yes. Yeah.
A big hit for them, but it's not up there as one of my top 10 songs.
No, nor mine.
It's the grammar that does it for me, I think.
Yeah.
You know me and the grammar.
It's a great riff.
Oh, a great riff. Yeah, he probably worked it out in his sleep, as he said, didn't he? But yeah, it's not up there as one of the greatest songs, I don't think.
There's a couple of other great tracks on Aftermath, though. Under My Thumb.
Under My Thumb, Out of Time.
Out of Time, yeah, I quite like Out of Time. I like Lady Jane as well.
Lady Jane, yeah. See, I've actually written quite a few for Aftermath. I've written Mother's Little Helper, Under My Thumb, Out of Time, Lady Jane. I've also written Take It or Leave It, only because that's the song that I remember the Searchers having on my golden hour of the Searchers. Yeah. Listen back to it, Take It or Leave It. I'm loyal to my old records. So 65, 66, are we still in 66 or is it 67 now? Between the buttons, 67, I think. Yeah. So we're into 67 and we've got 2 albums or just the one? 2 albums in 67. First one, Between the Buttons.
Yep.
Which was, well, I've only really got one highlight. Maybe a Bubbling Under one. But the one highlight I've got is Yesterday's Papers.
Yeah, and it passed me by a little bit. Ruby Tuesday.
Well, so I've got Ruby Tuesday.
Yeah.
Well, I've got that as well, but it's not on Between the Buttons anyway. Over here it wasn't. It was just a single over here.
US one. Yeah, it's on the US version, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's on the US version. But yeah,
there's a lovely story. I don't know if you read it. There's a really good story about Ruby Tuesday, where Bill Wyman played a stand-up bass,
All right.
and they couldn't play it. So Bill Wyman did this bit, and Keith Richards did the bow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think it's one of those little stories. It's just fun. I think it's a great song, absolutely great song. I think their version of it is superb, and I think what's her face's version is pretty good as well.
And as a singer, Jeff, can you easily get down to that 8th word of the song? She would never say where she came from.
Yes, very easily.
Very easy. It's not that easy to get down. All right, smart
Well, it depends what sort of voice you've got. Sadly, my voice starts a long way down there when I sing.
All right, okay. But it is very low.
Very much a second bass.
It's like the extreme to Minnie Riperton getting up there with "Loving You," isn't it? It's like down there or
you
up
can't
there.
do that. That's
No.
impossible.
That is impossible, or clearly not. But clearly not, because Minnie Riperton managed to do it. Yeah, Ruby Tuesday, always loved it. It was on the B-side of
Double A.
Double A, sorry. It was on the flip side, the other side of Let's Spend the Night Together, which again also wasn't on the Between the Buttons album, I don't think.
On the US version, it was.
US, yeah, but a UK version. I must admit, I've been looking at the UK versions, as I would do with the other mob.
Yeah.
I think the UK versions are the ones that, what the band and the labels wanted, I think.
Yeah.
That's the way I view it. So Between the Buttons, we've done.
Before Between the Buttons, actually, was Big Hits, High Tide and Green Grass. It was a compilation album, but it had on there some of the singles that were released in the US, had them on the effectively the compilation album.
Ah, right, okay. I've steered clear of compilation albums. Yeah, well, it was a UK one, was it?
It was a UK one, yeah.
Oh, right, okay. Bit like one of these. Yeah. I'm not going to mention them again, but yeah. Okay. What about the other one in '67? There's Their Satanic Majesty's Request.
Yeah.
Only one track on it for me, and it will probably make my top 10.
Go on then.
She's a Rainbow.
The Rainbow, yeah. It's a good song. I did consider that one, but I didn't select it in the end.
No, I love it, and a nice bit of piano.
Yeah.
It is Ian Stewart. It wasn't Nicky Hopkins, was it?
It might have been Nicky Hopkins at that time, because they did switch around a bit, didn't they?
Yeah.
Ian Stewart became a bit more in the 70s, more permanent. But I think in the 60s, Nicky Hopkins, I think they sort of alternated a bit.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because I think a guy called Nietzsche or something who did it as well.
Who?
Wasn't there a pianist called John Nietzsche or something who did it?
Nietzsche, yeah, he did a bit.
Jack Nietzsche.
Yeah,
I can't remember what his
Jack Nietzsche.
Yeah. I know him. Yeah. He had something to do with the Searchers as well. Maybe he wrote some of their songs.
But I think Nicky Hopkins used to do quite a bit of the string arranging as well, so that's why he was used quite a bit. He used to do a few of the string arrangements for the albums.
Oh, right, okay. Fair enough. Okay. Well, I love She's a Rainbow. That will make my 10. I'll have to work out what my 10's are going to be at the end here. But Beggar's Banquet coming up next then. I know Stinky Pete's a big fan of Beggar's Banquet.
Yeah.
Maybe the tracks are a little bit longer. He likes a longer track.
He does like a long track.
Your brother loves a longer track.
Beggar's Banquet.
Okay, well, it's one of two. I'm guessing it is Sympathy for the Devil.
It is.
Yeah.
It is Sympathy for the Devil, yeah.
Which, given my church status, I probably shouldn't have. But one of the reasons I've got it is because of the piano from Nicky Hopkins, which is just superb.
Yeah. It's a great song. And this is one of those songs that Jagger's voice is used amazingly.
Properly.
Yeah,
properly. Yeah.
Real great song. I think you were probably going to say Street Fighting Man for the other one, were you, Colin?
I was indeed.
I'm not a fan of that one particularly.
I prefer Sympathy for the Devil, I must admit, which has got in I know we don't mention them, the magazine that we don't mention, Rolling Stone, included it as number 106 in their top 500 songs of all time. Sympathy for the Devil. As Jagger said, it's like a Bob Dylan type song, and it was Keith Richards. He was in my day. He was called Keith Richard, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
I'm imagining things, but he changed it to Richard.
Who added that S? The S doesn't exist.
No, we didn't want to be associated with Cliff, maybe. I don't know. But I think Richards might be his real name. I'm not sure, but I think it might be. But it was Richard who changed the rhythm from it sort of it went from like a folk to a samba sort of rhythm on the track, which was quite an interesting thing. It closed the album, I think, didn't it? On
Street Fighting Man.
no, Sympathy for the Devil, didn't it? Or
No,
was
it was first track on side one
all
on
right,
there.
okay, all
Yeah.
right, fair enough. Shows what I know about the Stones, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right, but Sympathy for the Devil
More than
and
me
Street
is the
Fighter.
answer.
There's a couple of strange songs on that album. Dear Doctor, which is track 3 on the A side.
Yeah,
It's about a bloke that's going through a breakup with his girlfriend or whatever. And there's a bit in it where she's written him a note about her leaving him, I think. And Jagger sort of sings it in a really, really high falsetto voice, pretending to be the woman that's written the note.
oh
And
dear.
it's a real strange 20 seconds of the song, really strange.
And it
It's not
didn't
a
make
bad
the
song,
list.
but that bit, it just really makes me think, what on earth's going on here?
Yeah, yeah.
Then Jigsaw Puzzle, which is the last song on the A side, 6 minute song. It's a really good song, but it's they use the melody for another song later on and I can't for the life of me think what the song is. It's like they did Honky Tonk Woman and then they did Country Honk.
Country Honk, yeah.
They this is the same. The Jigsaw Puzzle when they did, and then they used the same melody for another song later on. I can't remember what it was, but just that's a couple of times they've done that throughout their career, maybe even more than that. But yeah, it's I'll think of it later on, I'm sure.
You probably will, and then you'll text me at 3 in the morning. So I know what it was.
Yeah.
Just don't text me.
No, well, actually, don't text me. Well, my phone's normally on quiet anyway, so no one would hear it.
Yeah, mine is as well at night.
Okay, so Jigsaw Puzzle. No, I must admit I'm unfamiliar with those and any high pitched songs.
Better reading.
High pitched, yeah. When you said he did falsetto a little bit too much earlier on at the start of the podcast. Yeah, I thought you meant like more in the 70s when he went a bit disco-y and he went up to like Miss You and Fool to Cry, maybe even. I mean, any of those.
But no, he definitely in that he literally reads this note that she's left him in falsetto, and it's a very strange 20 seconds or so of the song.
All right, okay. I might have to dig that out, just out of curiosity, really.
Yeah, Dear Doctor.
Dear Doctor, all right. Now, the only one I've written down, I've written Stray Cat Blues. Is that on Beggar's Blanket as well? I quite like that as well. Right, then we have, I think we're right in saying, well, I'm right in saying, from my point of view, the triumvirate, maybe even a quadrumvirate. Is there such a word? 4 great albums together.
Quartet.
If you include only rock and roll, it's 5.
Maybe even 5. Yeah, yeah. But the first of those 5 classic albums, Let It Bleed in '69. And the aforementioned Country Honk is on there, which is like a real hoedown version of what turned out to be Honky Tonk Women that Mick Taylor advised. Let's make this a bit rockier and we can do some of this. And yeah, so Country Honk's on there. And there are three great songs on there. First one, I think a lot of people think is the greatest Stones songs of all time. And you're nodding, so I assume you think the same.
My number one.
I mean, it's not Country Honk. It's Gimme Shelter, of course, which opens up Let It Bleed. Yeah. So I don't know from Let It Bleed what you've got on 40 Licks, Jeff. I should have that.
Nor do I, but I have chosen a song on my top 10 from Let It Bleed. Which is you can't always get what you want.
You can't always get what you want. Okay, that was the other one I was mentioned. That closed.
Which actually I knew better by someone else before I realised it was a Stone song.
Isn't that always the way?
I don't know if you've heard this, and if you haven't, you need to listen to it. Hugh Laurie's version is superb.
He doesn't sing, does he? Just on the piano.
He does. Yeah,
he sings as well.
Plays it, sings it.
He's a good pianist, isn't he?
He's a good pianist. Yeah. It's kind of very stripped out, but it's a really good song. It's very Dylan-esque. It's got a great soul backing. The Stones version. And it's got this really weird choir thing at the beginning, isn't it?
Yeah,
Which
the
apparently was
London
something to
Park
do with a
Choir.
bet
London
or something,
Park
and
Choir.
someone bet they couldn't get them or something stupid, so they did. But that aside, I think it's a really good song. And like for people to cover songs and make them sound really good, it means that the song in the first place is pretty decent, isn't it?
I think so.
The way it works.
This was the song as well that Charlie Watts couldn't play. It's Jimmy
Was it
Miller,
that
the
one?
producer, played the drums on
Really?
it. Yeah. He couldn't get the timing right rather than he couldn't play it. He couldn't get the timing right for the tempo of the song.
I bet he denies that he couldn't do it though. Well, he
Not
would
anymore,
do.
he
He's not
don't.
alive now.
He wouldn't
But
do now.
no,
But
we say what we want now. Yeah.
yeah, it's
He was a good. He was a better drummer than people gave him credit for.
oh,
Actually,
definitely,
Well,
yeah,
what, like Ringo is actually. I'm
like
sure.
Ringo, definitely like Ringo.
Yeah, yeah. He's a good jazz drummer, wasn't he, Charlie Watts?
Very
He did
good.
a lot of stuff at Ronnie Scott's, didn't he? A lot.
Yeah,
He
Ronnie Scott's.
go
Yeah,
there
the
a
jazz
lot and
club.
play.
Yeah,
He
jazz
used to
club
go down the
Ronnie.
local pub and play in the local band, didn't he?
Yeah,
Like the
Yes.
local jazz band. He'd just turn up and play.
yeah.
Did he have any records out in his jazz band? Sort of.
Not that I'm aware
Days,
of.
I wonder, Charlie Watts. No, it's all live stuff.
Played
I,
with,
midnight,
the Spike Edney's SAS. Is it SAS band or whatever they called it? He basically toured around the UK with loads of guest singers, like Paul Young was in it, and quite a few others. Just famous musicians were playing this Spike Edney's SAS. I think it was called the SAS band,
Mm.
and Charlie Watts used to play in that regularly.
Oh, really?
But yeah. But
Right.
another, well, it's not even funny. It's just another misprint. But on the album, You Can't Always Get What You Want. Backing vocals were actually done by Nanette Workman. But on the original presses of the album, it was attributed to Nanette Newman. And
Nanette Newman.
yeah.
Nice. She wasn't on the coffee adverts, was she? That's someone else. Just an
No,
actress.
she was married to Brian Forbes, wasn't she?
She was,
That's it.
yeah.
That's the one. Nanette Newman.
Yeah, Newman. She was a very pretty lady.
She was
Very
certainly.
talented as well.
Tell me why "Gimme Shelter" is so good.
Oh, it's just the atmosphere of the atmosphere of the song, if for want of a better expression, is just. It was set. Well, it was written obviously during the Vietnam War, and it's supposedly about some of the things that were going on in the Vietnam War, what some of the GIs might have been doing to some of the Vietnamese women, and just horrible things. But there's Mary Clayton is the female singer
Vocalist. Yeah, you'd love it actually, Jeff, if you have a good listen to that.
If you must listen to it, Jeff. Honestly, it's just such an emotional song, and her vocals are just, even you can hear when she does in the second verse, she sings "rape, murder." It's just a shot away. It's just a shot away, and there's one bit, and she's pregnant at the time that she's singing it, and it's like 2-3 o'clock in the morning because they called her up at midnight to come and do the session, and she sort of screams in the middle of this thing. She loses the note effectively, and it just makes her bit. It's just unbelievable. And you can hear, if you listen carefully, you can hear Jagger in the background. He's whooping in the background of this bit that she's just done that she didn't mean to do, but it actually really
Made the record almost.
It's just awesome. And on YouTube, there's a where they just take away the vocal, and they've got her vocal alone just on YouTube, and you can just listen to her vocal isolated. It's just absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. It's by far and away my favourite Stone song.
I think you might have sent me that once actually.
Yeah, it's
isolated vocal on it.
It's just awesome.
It's such a driving riff to it as well, and it really kicks in.
Yeah.
I played a good cover version of it by Thunder. They're a great covers band, Thunder, aren't they? I played it on the radio not that long ago. But I might have to put "Gimme Shelter." Thing is, tomorrow morning on the show, I've probably got a few Stone songs in it. I know you've given me 4.
Yeah.
And I'm no doubt going to put a few in as well. So "Gimme Shelter" I might have to go in as well.
Yeah, I think you've got
listen to it tomorrow morning, Jeff, if you're about. That is. And
Mary Clayton also did a cover of "Gimme Shelter" on her. I think it was her debut album.
All right.
So, and I think her debut album was called "Gimme Shelter."
Okay.
But yeah, it's by far my favourite Stone song.
Interesting. Okay.
You're not alone. You're not alone. I think it's one of Stink's
Yeah.
as well, actually, one of
Yeah.
Stinky Pete's favourites. In '69, we've mentioned Country Honk then. I think probably my favourite Stone song isn't Gimme Shelter, although I do love it. It's Honky Tonk Women. I've always loved Honky Tonk Women.
Yeah, good song.
I've got it on one of my shout outs. So I've got 4 together on one of my shout outs, none of which I would pick as my favourite.
Yeah.
I've got Honky Tonk, Route 66, Jumping Jack Flash, and Brown Sugar.
Right.
Just because in the band that I play with occasionally, we play them. And they are such fun to play. The bass line in Honky Tonk is brilliant. But all 4 of them, they're really good to play live. I wouldn't want to sit and listen to them because they don't touch me that way. But as fun as songs to play out loud as in a band, they are just fabulous.
Do you get the whole hog with Honky
Anything that's
Tonk?
got a cowbell in it works for me.
Yeah, you've got a cowbell. Yeah, you're on a winner, aren't you?
You don't need anything else.
No, and I still don't know whether it actually means Honky Tonk Woman or Honky Tonk Women, because it never really makes a lot of sense in the lyrics to me. It's Honky Tonk Women.
Yeah.
It's if you like, is it a Honky Tonk Woman he sings, or is it a Honky Tonk Women? I know the song title was Honky Tonk Women. Has he spelt it wrongly? See, this is
Is there
another.
a comma in the wrong place?
Yeah.
Should it be woe, comma men?
It could be.
These days.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, you mentioned Jumping Jack Flash was another big number one in '69, 68 was it? Jumping Jack Flash, which won a staple Keith Richards riff.
Yeah, it is.
Such a great opening riff to it. And Honky Tonk Women was the last number one single for the Stones in the UK in 1969.
Yeah. Talking, just sorry, can we just go back to Let It Bleed a second?
Yeah, sure.
Because there's a couple of other great tracks on there. They're not in my 10 or whatever. Midnight Rambler.
I've got Midnight Rambler. I've got that written down. It chugs along nicely, doesn't it?
It does. A real slow bluesy number, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then after that you've got the Silver, and that's Keith Richards singing, one of the few that he does the vocals for, which is a really, really good song as well. It's my favourite Stones album. The first Stones album I bought, and I bought it before I ever bought a Beatles album. So maybe that's why, as we were just
maybe that's why your tendencies were for the Stones. I think Let It Bleed was on your Desert Island albums, wasn't it?
It was, yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, then we lead into Jeff's already mentioned Brown Sugar, which was of course on Sticky Fingers with that ridiculous sleeve with a zip on it, which was ill-conceived, I guess, because a number of the vinyls were probably scratched to hell, weren't they?
Yep. If you can get one though with that, then the zip still opens, and the belt used to open as well on the early press.
Yeah.
So you could just see, like, I think it was white underpants or something underneath it. It was, very, very good.
No wonder my mum didn't approve.
No, that's right. That's why she wouldn't have approved of the Stones and Sticky Fingers.
If you can get a copy with the zip and the zip still works on it, it's worth some decent money, as long as it obviously the vinyl plays okay.
That helps as well, doesn't it? The vinyl's okay. Well, Wild Horses is on there, of course, which is a wonderful song.
Yeah. I've got that.
I've got
Wild Horses.
Yeah.
You've got to have it on your list, really, haven't you?
Yeah.
Wild Horses. And I know you've requested that tomorrow, Neil.
I have, yeah.
So I thought, well, that's definitely one he's going to choose tonight, I'm sure.
Also, Brown Sugar I've got on my list as well.
Brown Sugar, okay. I've always loved Brown Sugar too. It didn't get to number one here. It was only a number 2, but it's a number 1 in the States, I guess.
Number 2 or number 3?
I think it was 2.
Oh, number 2, yeah, number 2. Yeah.
Are you still allowed to play it, Colin? Because a lot of the radio stations won't anymore.
Uncensored,
unformatted
music.
Stones won't play it live anymore either.
They won't play it live.
Stones won't play it live anymore because of the lyrics.
Don't understand it.
Elvis Costello won't sing Oliver's Army as well. I mean, there are a lot of songs that at the time, even the Pogues probably would have changed the lyric to Fairy Tale of New York, actually. I don't understand it, to be honest. I mean,
I don't get it.
It's of a time. It's of a time. Yeah. It's like changing history. And if you know,
have you heard Leon Russell's version of Wild Horses?
No, I haven't.
Like Leon Russell.
Yeah, good pianist as well.
He's a bit excessive, but he's yeah, it's worth a listen.
What else have I got? I've got a few others on Sticky Fingers. Is Sway.
Yeah.
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me
Can't.
knocking?
Yeah,
Can't
can't you
hear
hear me
me.
rocking?
Yeah,
Yeah, which is a real rocking song.
yeah.
One with Moonlight Mile, was that on there as well?
Here's the last track. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. That's Jag. It's very acousticy, isn't it? Oh, Sister
yeah.
Morphine is the other one.
It's the
I try to
morphine.
like Sister Morphine, but I
It's
don't
a
know.
hard like. It's a
It is
hard
a
like.
hard like. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like very acousticy, isn't it? And
Yeah, and very slow, and it sort of not drones. That's not the, but it to me it needs to be a little bit more up tempo. But obviously, when you're talking about what he's talking about, then
yeah, true.
But have you ever heard the Ren Harvey cover of it?
No.
Oh, that's really haunting.
All right.
Really
Okay.
haunting. Yeah, I'll request that one day. That's really good.
I'm sure you will. Well, Jagger said the song is about a man after an accident. So I don't
Yeah,
know whether that means an overdose or not. Who knows? But that was the theme of the song, and it was co-written with Marianne Faithfull. Of course, she
yeah,
does sing on it, I think, doesn't she?
yes, yeah. She does. She does
She
backing
does on
vocals.
it, yeah.
Yeah,
And Moonlight Mile was a Jagger song with a little help from Mick Taylor.
yeah,
Yeah, Keith Richards was absent quite a bit during the Sticky Fingers sessions, I believe.
yeah. He
He
was.
wasn't.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
didn't perform on the song at all. So that's Sticky Fingers on
I
to
like
'72.
the other one I like on there is Bitch as well.
Oh,
The opening
Bitch, yeah,
track
yeah.
is side
That
two.
was on the single with Brown Sugar, and
That's right.
it was like 3 tracks, weren't there? Look, was it an
Yeah.
EP? No, Brown
I think
Sugar, Bitch, Let It Rock Live.
was it Let It Rock?
Yeah, Let It Rock Live was the other
Right.
one on
Yeah.
the EP.
But the start of that's got the brass intro, isn't it? The brass do 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 do. I think that's
Yeah,
Bitch.
and then
Yeah,
but yeah, Bitch is another good song too.
yeah,
Now onto Exile on Main Street. Yeah, '72. I'm thinking right in saying Stones stalwart fans would say that this is the greatest Stones album. It's a double, their only double.
yes. Their only double studio album. Yeah,
Yeah, only double studio album. And I mean, I must admit, one of my top 10 songs by the Stones is on it, which was the single, Tumbling
Tumbling
Dice.
Dice. Yeah,
I think it's such a great song.
What
It's
do
got
you
a
like
little
about
bit.
it, Carl?
It's sort of a slow bluesy song
bluesy. Yeah,
more than yeah. It's quite a bluesy song. There's another song on the album called Happy, which has the same sort of
yeah,
groove to it
yeah.
as Tumbling Dice, actually.
Tumbling Dice. If you know me to the wall and said PK Rolling Stones song that you like, it will be
Yes,
Tumbling Dice.
that I'd like.
No, that I like.
That you
It'll
like
be
Tumbling Dice.
it'll be my favourite Stones song.
Yeah, it's just a great song. I think it is.
It's got the rhythm is called like a drag shuffle is what they call it.
Oh well, there you go.
And
I knew
it's
you'd have a
just kind
technical
of like
term.
this held back, slightly pulled back sort of shuffle style. But I think it's very Faces. Like if the Faces did it, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could be right. Yeah, I hear that. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a fabulous song. And like I say, like the only one that I would walk a mile for, you know.
It's Tumbling Dice,
Tumbling
and
Dice.
Linda Ronstadt did a good version of it actually.
And Linda Ronstadt can do no wrong.
She always does good cover versions. Not only Buddy Holly songs, but I mean the Stones, the Hollies. I mean you name it, the
Yeah.
Eagles. I mean
She
there
had
was
a
just so many
beautiful voice.
good
And
covers.
she's now in a
Yeah,
very, very sad state, bless her.
she is. Isn't that Parkinson's,
She's
isn't
got
it?
Parkinson's, yeah.
Yeah. She can't sing.
I had a couple
Tragedy.
of others on this one that nearly made my top 10.
Go on.
Sweet Virginia, which is a
Yeah.
country song, isn't it?
Yeah.
They do
Sweet
country
Virginia. I love
songs
that as well. I've
very
got that
well.
written down.
Yeah, they do country songs very well. Country
They
country pop.
do. I love that sort of country drawl. Is it
Yeah,
drawl?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Rocks off as
Keith
well.
Richards does a slide guitar on that, and it's really good. And I like Shine a Light as well because that's got the choral arrangement to it as well.
All right. Okay.
Shine a Light, yeah. I'm a
No,
bit
I
of
like
a
Rocks Off. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and Happy. And I've got 5 written down for Exile, but it's a double album.
Yeah.
So happy, although it's got a tumbling dice feel to it with the shuffle. What was the technical term you used for, Jeff?
The technical term is dragged shuffle.
Dragged shuffle. There you go. The man with the technical terms. That's what you're here for. That's why we paid a big bucks to appear on the podcast. And Keith Richards sang that song, actually, rather than Jagger. Are we heading on to 73? Another great album.
So before you go this far, can I ask a stupid question that I should know?
Go on in.
When did Brian Jones die?
69, I think it was.
Yeah, it's middle of 69, I think it was, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I mean, Honky Tonk, Country Honk might have been on Let It Bleed. I think might have been one of his last sessions.
I think
So
he only
wasn't
played
on Honky Tonk Women.
two songs on Let It Bleed.
Let It Bleed, yeah, and then he died. So yeah.
I
Then they
wonder
did
how
the
much
concert.
I wonder how much that changed their overall style, because he was a fantastic guitarist.
He was.
Yeah. I think he was the experimental one, I think, in the band, that tried to change them to do, or try to get them to do different things. And it had caused a bit of an issue, I think. Jagger and Richards like the rockier, bluesier stuff, and Jones wanted to take it somewhere else, and it did cause a few issues in the band. So, but I think Mick Taylor was an excellent addition.
Mick Taylor was, yeah, and then of course Ronnie Wood wasn't too bad, was he? Really?
No.
After that.
Sorry, I interrupted your flow, Colin. I couldn't. I was trying to work out where.
No, that's
where
fine.
the
That's
change in
fine.
style would have come.
It was 69, and then they had the concert almost days after, didn't they? At Hyde Park concert on his in his behalf, in tribute to him. Ghost Head Soup in 73, and I've got one absolute Stonewall classic for me. And also, I've got Star Star, as I love that one as well. Real rocking Stones song, which got banned, obviously, by the BBC. We mentioned YouTube earlier on. Of course, we are broadcasting live on YouTube. If you prefer that way, it's on the CBW Productions channel, YouTube channel. The real CBW Productions, I think it is. So you can catch us on that, or you might be watching us on Twitter or X. Or, of course, we are broadcasting live on Facebook on the Off the Record Facebook page. But, yeah, the song I'm talking about is Angie.
Beautiful song.
And I think it should be better than it is.
Really?
It's a great song. It's on one of my shouts. It's one of my list of shout-outs at the end. But there's just something about it that I think it should be a better song than it actually turns out to be. And because I'm biased, I can only put that down to Jagger's voice. But maybe that's me just being stupid. It's a really nice song. It's got everything it should have. And sometimes I really like it, and other times I go, no, there's something not right.
Oh, interesting. I mean, it's a ballad, obviously, but it has that sort of Jagger snarl about it, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But if you don't like his snarl, then you're not going to like the song so much.
Well,
no.
It's
I
it's not his snarl I don't like, really. It's his higher echelon that I'm averse to.
No, I just love playing that on an acoustic guitar as well. It's like mnemonic at the start, isn't it? And then
I don't know. Hold on.
Then it's just an A minor chord, I think, isn't it? I think it is, from what I remember. But yeah, love it. Who it's about, we don't really know. I mean, it could be about Angie Bowie. Apparently, it could be about his
Angie Dickinson.
Is it Angie Dickinson as well? Yeah, I forgot about that.
He had a relationship with her, didn't he, as well?
But he also had a newborn child called Dandelion Angela. It could have been
Keith Richards,
yeah. But he says it was just a random a random name, not a random nose, a random name that was chosen for it.
It kind of fits the rhythm, doesn't it, as a word?
Yeah,
it does. Yeah, I suppose he could have called it Beryl. Beryl. It doesn't work, does it? That sounds like a mouthwash or something, actually, doesn't it? You don't get many Beryls around nowadays.
No, not enough.
Angie, Star closed the album with a few rude words on the album, on
One or
the
two.
version, of course, and it was banned by the BBC. But I do love it. It's such a rocking song.
Yeah.
You got anything off Goat's Head Soup then, Neil?
I had Angie as well. Did have
Oh,
Angie. I also like.
we've lost your sound there.
Oh no! Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear me.
You can hear me. I can hear you now.
Oh right, that's weird.
That's weird. Yeah, you're not
Yeah,
clear on the screen now, but it says your network bandwidth is low. But you're back. You might be back on track now.
okay, yeah. So yeah, I had Angie, and I also toyed with Do 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 Heartbreaker
Heartbreaker. Yeah, that was that a single? Maybe it was in the States actually.
in the States, I think. Yeah, not in the UK.
Yeah.
But that was about it. Silver Train was all right, but that was on the B side of Angie, if I remember right. But yeah, I didn't. It's not one of my favourites. Goat's Head Soup.
I've written Silver Train. I've written something in brackets after it, but I can't read what it is. I'm sure it wasn't Vital. But Silver Train, yeah, on the B side of. Sorry, you said that was on the B side of Angie, was it? Okay. And talking of B sides, I think you can't always get what you want. That Jeff mentioned. I think I'm right in saying that was on the B side of Honky Tonk Women, wasn't it?
I don't know.
No,
I think you might be right there. You might be right.
I could just make it up.
Yeah, no, I think you might be right.
Yeah, I think you could be right. Not that's
I
relevant.
believe you, Colin.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you very much. That's another reason why you're invited on the show. Right, so the next album in the sequence, which is also pretty good, not as good, I don't think, as the previous three, Exile, Sticky Fingers, and Let It Bleed, but it's only rock and roll.
Not one of my favourites again.
No.
A lot of people rate it, but I love the
title track. Yeah, me too. That'll be the top song from it for me.
Yeah, definitely. And Dance Little Sister's good. Apart from that, there's a lot of filler on there, I think.
Short and Curlies?
Doesn't stand out for me.
Okay. Short and Curlies don't stand out. All right. Okay. Moving on swiftly. I think you'll probably find that, for me anyway, is a lot the same, like the title track or the main track from the album. In other words, it's probably on 40 licks that Jeff's got in there.
It probably means it was a single, and you and I will always go for the singles rather than the album tracks, I would guess.
Yeah, a lot of them are. I mean, I'll see at the end when I put my ring round 10 definitive top 10 for me. Next album's the same, Black and Blue. Now, for me, they went disco-y, didn't they, by this point?
The little starts, Hot Stuff, definitely a bit disco-y.
Yeah, I don't know. And I got the feeling. And Full to Cry, I've got that written down. Probably wouldn't make the top 10. But
Full to Cry is in my top 10.
Oh, okay. I dare say Jeff doesn't like that because there's a bit of Jagger's voice and falsetto.
Nothing to do with Jagger's voice. I just don't like it as
Right.
a song. So again, each to their own. It doesn't do it for me.
All right. Okay. There's a lot of.
There is a lot of in it. Yeah.
There's a lot of that going on in Full to Cry.
What I think's really interesting, it's got piano on it, so it's got Jagger playing the piano. It's got Hopkins playing electric, whatever he plays, the Hammond or whatever he plays. But he's also playing a synthesizer as well. So it's got the piano, it's got a keyboard, and it's got a synthesizer on it. And you can pick out each individual one, which a trained musician would be able to anyway. But the differences in sound, it just really goes well together, I think. The way they're all played.
Yeah. I don't mind Full to Cry. I must admit, I wouldn't. It's not like I'll switch it off if it came on the radio.
I wouldn't switch it off either, but I wouldn't put it on.
It's not like it's one of my all-time favourites by the band. No, all right. However, on the next album, I've got a couple that may well be. Once I reviewed it, one because we're entering 78, I think it was, and Some Girls.
Yeah.
With an interesting sleeve. I remember having on vinyl with little cutouts, weren't there? I think, yeah. And it was the era of punk, which I did love, or new wave. And for me, this was real, almost punky in terms of some of the songs on Some Girls, particularly on the single, which I've got written down as Respectable. That is the Rolling Stones Go Punk.
Yep.
I'm not sure whether that made it onto 40 Licks, though, actually.
I don't know the song. I can have a look. Hold on.
Yeah.
I'll have a look. I don't know if I
So
can get this open at the same time.
respectable. Yeah, it is. It's a real rocking song. And the other one, you might mention this as well, Neil. I don't know. I mean, Beast of Burden's on there, of course.
Yeah.
It's another falsetto type thing, isn't it? I think
Yeah.
at times. One I really love, and we're talking about country songs, is Faraway Eyes.
Faraway Eyes. Yeah.
Faraway Eyes.
Yeah.
It was the flip side, maybe a double A of Miss You, which
Yeah.
I've never really got into.
I love
Again,
Miss
it's a bit
You.
disco-y. It's
Oh,
against
but it's-
disco-y for me.
It was their attempt at disco, wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
their biggest attempt at disco. And when you think of it, I mean, you know, there aren't many rock bands that have a go at disco really, or that do it well. I think Miss You is brilliant. The Bill Wyman's bass line on it. The rumor is he visited loads and loads of clubs in New York to try and understand what was making people dance, and he then formatted his bass line around what was making people dance. That's how that happened.
You
But
worked it out.
I think this sort of influenced quite a few others, because not long after this you had Rod Stewart did Baby Jane and
Don't mention the name of the other one. Don't mention the other
Do You
song
Think
title.
I'm Something or Other?
Yeah.
They're in a very similar vein, very disco-y. And you had Kiss, I was made for loving
I was
you.
made for loving you.
Another
Yeah,
one that was very disco-y, and I think a few other bands attempted a disco. Rock bands attempted a disco
I
song.
think with Gene Simmons of Kiss, though, I mean, he was cohabiting, I believe, and with Diana Ross at the time. I'm sure
Yeah,
that was probably an influence there.
Probably, yeah.
I was going to say she rubbed off him a bit, but I'm not sure.
We dealt with that. We dealt with that last week.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, so we won't go that route. But yeah, I know
the answer to your earlier question is Respectable is not on.
No, I didn't think it was. It sort of gets overlooked. I mean, it wasn't a top 20 hit, I think, actually. It was probably, where are we? Respectable was a number 23, so nearly made it, but not quite. And I do love it. But Faraway Eyes was on the other side of Miss You, and that would have made the top 3.
Yeah.
I just love it. His sort of country drawl again. I keep saying drawl as if that's the right word. It is the right word, isn't it?
It sort of
It's the right word.
I think. Yeah.
That sort of I was driving home. This was so faintly American accent. I was driving home.
So if English people try and do an American accent,
yeah,
right. Yeah, yours would sound like an Indian accent if you did it, though, Jeff, wouldn't it?
It would do, definitely.
It would. So I was driving home. I was through Bakersfield, was it? Early Sunday morning, listening to gospel music on the colored radio station. You know,
was Jagger with Jerry Hall at this point? Because she was from Texas, wasn't she? And she had that drawl.
Yeah, that drawl. Could well be.
Yeah,
she had a lot going for her, that girl, you know.
She did, yeah. Legs, certainly her legs.
She was going out with Brian Ferry as well, wasn't she?
She was, because he Let's Stay Together. She was in the video for that, wasn't she?
Yeah.
But I also love the cover of Just My Imagination on this album as well.
Yeah, the Smokey Robinson.
Smokey Robinson, yeah.
Miracle song, yeah, that's a good song.
Yeah,
can't really go wrong with it. Right, after this album, Some Girls, there aren't so many good ones for me personally, I would say. Tattoo You, possibly. I did get that album when it came out.
I have a tattoo. It's the only one from this era that I've got.
And it's Start Me Up.
It is Start Me Up.
Yes. You and me both, singles.
It's a great song, and I think it's the only one I've got that's got Ronnie Wood on it. But it's got really good harmonies in it. The chorus harmonies are really good. But it's a I can't believe I'm going to say this now. It's a proper old-fashioned Rolling Stones song, brought up to date. And Jagger doesn't try too hard. He's not squeezing too hard. And I like it. I do like it.
So do I. Whether or not it would make it into my top 10, I don't know, but it's certainly up there. I also like. There's a couple more on that album I like in the middle of it. Hang Fire and Little TNA, I think it is, and
Yeah.
that's Keith Richards singing. Is the final track, which is also a single. And it's the second single. Was Waiting on a Friend.
Yeah, that's a good song.
I've
Always
got
love
two
Waiting
other
on a
songs that I don't know what albums they're from, so they could easily be from ones that we've already mentioned, or they could be this sort of era. And that's Don't Stop. Is that on this album?
Don't Stop. No, it's not on that album. I don't think it is anyway.
It's
We've missed
an
an album.
easy,
We missed
very
out Emotional
easy
Rescue,
light
haven't we?
rocks. Huh?
We missed an album out. I'm just wondering what was on Emotional Rescue. I think that was
I
before
don't know.
Tattoo.
And Losing My Touch, which I really like.
Oh, see, now you've got us.
Oh, shall I have a look?
Yeah, go on then.
I'm probably not allowed to do that, am I?
Well, yeah, go on then. Emotional Rescue was the one before Tattoo You, surely. And Emotional Rescue is not a bad song. And the other single, She's So Cold, I think
So
it was.
Cold, yeah.
Yeah, they're not bad songs. But on Tattoo You...
Quite like Indian Girl as well.
Okay.
It's the closing track on the first side.
Tattoo You, Start Me Up, opens it. Waiting on a Friend closes it. And the rest between... But I did get it... Yeah, I did get the album, and that's probably that was probably the last vinyl album, or did I get? Well, I might have got another one actually. But are there many after this that you like?
Well, I've got one on Undercover, and it's probably the funkiest song that they've ever done, and it's on my one that
It's
I've
on the
asked
list for tomorrow, isn't it? Yeah.
Too Much Blood. It's so funky. It could be a Prince song. It's a story. Really, it's their Jagger's protest about the increase in use of violence in movies and the unnecessary violence. Put it that way. And it was initiated by a story of a Japanese guy in Paris that murdered a French woman, kept her cut her head off, put bits of her body in the freezer, cooked her, ate her, buried her bodies in the Bois de Boulogne, buried her bones, in the Bois de Boulogne, and was only discovered by a taxi driver that was just driving past and saw this guy digging a hole and burying the bodies. And it's a true story.
This is why, Jeff, again, your mum and dad or your mum would not like you to listen to the Rolling Stones. I'm sure.
You'll hear it tomorrow, but then he goes into a bit of a thing about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And he starts rapping basically in the song, and he goes on about have you ever seen anybody running around Texas with a chainsaw? And then he goes, "Oh, don't cut off my arm, don't cut off my leg," and it's
I'm looking forward to that one tomorrow morning.
Yeah, let me know what time that one's on, and I think I might be in the forest.
It's brilliant. I think it's brilliant. It's really funky, and honestly, I think it could have been a Prince song. And this was what 83 was it? Undercover was 83, so Prince had done 4 or 5 albums by then, so they could have been influenced a little bit by Prince.
Easily.
So that's what. It's not a bad album at all. Undercover of the Night, or Undercover, but Undercover of the Night was a single, wasn't it, from the album?
It was, yeah. And have you found out which albums yours?
Yeah, those two are only on 40 Licks.
Oh right, okay. So they were just singles.
They were just. If you get a chance to play "Losing My Touch," it's a really nice song. It's I don't think it is an ode to Lou Reed, but it's very Lou Reed style. It's empty. There's a lot of despair in it, and there's this country slide thing going on in the background. It's an interesting little song.
It doesn't sound like a rocker.
It's not a rocker.
No, that's what I mean.
A rocker, it is not.
Well, I'll do my best. I'll do my best to see what I can fit it in. And after that, have you got any other ones then? Any other songs then, Jeff? Or
the only other song that I wrote down at all was "Get Off My Cloud."
Yeah, I've got that written down because you skipped over just singles. Yeah, it was way back in '65 again, wasn't it? Again, the grammar. I mean, Get off
That's
of
that's
my cloud.
public school education for you.
Yes. A great pop song, great pop
It
rock
is.
song.
It's good.
Yeah, I
It is
agree.
good.
Get off of my cloud. But after Undercover, which was 83, as you said, you've got Dirty Work.
Yep. Good cover of Harlem Shuffle on there.
Yeah, I've got that down. Harlem Shuffle. Steel Wheels came out 3 years later in 89. This is an album because we did many months, years probably ago, did a podcast with your brother Stinky Pete, Jeff, and I think Austin was on it. Austin Dunmore, the Australian singer-songwriter and guitarist, was on the show, and we did a show on the four stalwarts of British music, rock music, and we were looking at maybe the best albums by it, and one of them was the Stones, the other was the Beatles, of course, and there was Led Zeppelin, and there was Pink Floyd. And I think in his list, I think maybe we're choosing the best and the worst from these albums. He had Steel Wheels down. He thought it was. I won't use the words he used because I can't remember them. Not because they were a foul language. They probably were that as well. But I don't mind it as much as he does. I mean, I love. They had a song called Mixed Emotions on it. That was a single, and the opening track, Sad, Sad, Sad.
I don't mind Rock and a Hard Place.
Yeah, that was a single
Yeah,
too. I don't like it as
yeah,
much as the other two, but it ranked. It'll probably be a bronze medal for me, Rock and a Hard Place.
yeah.
But that's probably because I'm just more familiar with it than some of the other tracks. Voodoo Lounge, hardly anything on that one. That was in '94. You Got Me Rocking, maybe.
Yeah.
Which brings us to '97. That longer gaps between their albums. We've got
Bridges to
Bridges to
Babylon.
Babylon, which again there's sort of you don't have to mean it, sort of a reggae feel to the song. I don't know if that was a single on it though, to be honest.
Do you know what? I can't even remember anything off of that album.
No, I mean I think they all sort of get into a mash around that time in the 90s. Yeah, you could overlook the 90s Stone stuff, I think. A Bigger Bang was in the noughties in 2005, and I like the opening track to it. It's Rough Justice. Don't know
Yeah,
whether that
yeah,
rings
that's
any
okay.
bells.
Yeah,
That's sort of a straightforward, what I would call a straightforward classic Stones rocker that opens up with a riff at the start. And yeah, I mean, I've written down the opening verse. If I can read my writing, one time you were my baby chicken. Now I've grown into a fox, and once upon a time I was your little rooster,
You've
and
got a
now
farm girl
am I
thing
just
going
one
on
of
here.
your cocks. That was the opening line of that song, which I do love it. It's a good rocker, and that was Rough Justice. And then that was their last original album. 'Cause they did until 2023, but they did a bluesy album, didn't they?
He's a lonesome. Yeah,
Which is called Blue and Lonesome. It came out in 2016. All covers and all traditional blues songs. And some of them are just great. I mean, again, you can't really go wrong. I love the opening track, Just Your
that's the
Fool.
fool. Yeah,
That's a real, it's a real Stones beat to it, real classic 12-bar blues there. Um, and also, I got a great version of that by Cyndi Lauper, actually. She did an album called Memphis Blues. Did a similar sort of thing, and she did a great version of Just Your Fool. And of course, in 2023, they had
Hackney
their
Diamond.
latest album, Hackney Diamonds, which is not bad, actually. What did you think of Hackney Diamonds? You heard any of it? I won't
I've
ask you
only,
'cause
I've
it's
only
not.
played it through once or twice, to be honest, on a streaming. I haven't bought the album.
No.
I've only played, and I wasn't that impressed with it. You know, I didn't mind the angry single, but apart from that, I couldn't name a track on it now.
No. All right, fair enough. Well, I can't either, to be honest. Or Bite My Head Off, I've got written down here. But that's because Macca's on it.
All
And
right.
you know what I'm like.
Yeah.
I had a few guests on it, actually. And Bill Wyman played the bass on one of the tracks on it.
Yeah, Lady Gaga was on one of them as well, wasn't she?
Yeah, Lady Gaga was on it as well, and she's got a great voice, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably better than Mick Jagger's, as Jeff would
Oh,
confess.
yeah.
But yeah, that brings us up to date with the albums. So have I missed any songs out though? That's the thing. I'll tell you what, I think my 10, I think I mentioned all of my 10. I would plump, just just to spread it out a bit, I would go for Carol from their debut album. I'd go She's a Rainbow from 67. I'd go Gimme Shelter from 69. I'd go Wild Horses from 71. I'd go Tumbling Dice from 72. I'd go Angie from 73. I'd go Respectable from 78. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'll also throw in A Waiting on a Friend from 81. And then I've got, you see, I've got 4 that I could fit in. Maybe 5. I've got Paint It Black. I've got Ruby Tuesday. I've got Honky Tonk Women. And I've got Faraway Eyes, which I think all of them should be up there. I don't really know. I think Paint It Black should be in there. And Honky Tonk Women has got to be in there. So I'll have Honky Tonk Women as one of my 10. And then that is one other. I'll go Ruby Tuesday then, ahead of Paint It Black. And I'm not going to put either of you on the spot to come up with your 10 because you're probably giving them anyway. Unless you've got any bubbling unders that you want to mention, either of you.
I've actually got one on my 10 that we haven't mentioned, or I don't think we've mentioned. The Last Time.
Oh, The Last Time.
Yeah,
of course.
Which was their third #1 single funny enough, in 65.
Yes.
It was on the US version of Out of Our Heads, but not on the UK version.
No, it wasn't.
I've got that as well.
Yeah, it's a real lovely Brian Jones jangling guitar.
Yeah.
Riff on that, and really good. So I've got, for my 10, I've got Gimme Shelter is my clear #1. Brown Sugar, Paint It Black, Fall to Cry, The Last Time, Angie, Miss You, Too Much Blood, Wild Horses, and You Can't Always Get What You Want. That's my 10. And then I've got bubbling under. I've got Mother's Little Helper, Sweet Virginia, Under My Thumb, Waiting on a Friend, As Tears Go By, which was the B-side.
As Tears Go By. Because again, that wasn't on an album, was it?
No, it was the B-side of 19th Nervous Breakdown.
Yeah, and they gave it to Marianne Faithfull to do, and then
their version's better. I think.
Okay, fair enough. What about? I'll tell you what, who's done maybe a better version of a song of theirs, and I think they wrote it for him in '66, and that was Chris Farlow, and they wrote Out of Time, and he had a '1 hit with it.
Yeah.
They only recorded it later on in the year on Aftermath, was it, or was it Between the Buttons? 66, it will be Aftermath.
Oh, Aftermath, yeah.
Yeah.
Neil, did you know, Neil, that Last Time is based on a sermon?
Is it?
Sermon. Oh.
It's based on a sermon by Reverend J.M. Gates, in case you care.
No.
So it was a sermon by Reverend J.M. Gates that was made into a song by the Staple Singers. And then the Stones borrowed part of that song.
Yeah, the melody
as their core for the song.
I didn't know it was a sermon. I knew the Staple Singers. It had been borrowed from the Staple Singers.
And ironically, it was the first #1 single by the band that they had actually written themselves.
Really?
Yep.
Produced by Phil Spector, was it not?
Yep.
Was it?
It was.
I believe it was.
What, the single Last Time?
Yeah.
Yep.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yep.
You learn something every day on this podcast.
Every day is a school day.
Every day is a school day. The Last Time, yeah. Well, it was a good idea. That's another thing the Beatles, of course, got the Stones to do, is write their own songs. When they saw them writing together in I don't know, where was it? Was it Ronnie Scott's or something? They were in a back room somewhere. They were putting together a song in 863. And they sat in and watched them compose I Want to Be Your Man. And they were intrigued by that. And they even gave it to them to release as their second single, to follow up from Come On, which was a Chuck Berry cover. That was their first single. And they gave them I Want to Be Your Man. And then they did their own version of the Beatles on their second album with the Beatles in December '63. with Ringo singing. That was his song from that album. Anything else we can say? Yeah, the last time there was a few. Get Off My Cloud we mentioned. Were there any other singles? Of course, Lennon and McCartney featured on one of the Stones singles. Do you remember what that is?
No.
We Love You.
We do, Colin.
Yeah, but it's also the name of the song. We Love You, with Dandelion on the other side of it. There was a lot of people on that song, including we did mention Jumping Jack Flash, didn't we? I'm sure we did. Yeah, had to get a mention.
In passing.
And the only other earlier single, which was their second number one in the UK in '64, was a cover of the is it Muddy Waters, Little Red Rooster?
Oh yeah. Wasn't Muddy Waters, no.
Who was it? Probably Willie Dixon or one of those.
Something like that.
Don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember. Anyway, that was another number one. So there we have it. There's a lot of Stone songs there. I don't suppose you've given us your 10, haven't you, Jeff?
Throughout the course, yeah. Tumbling Dice, It's All Over, Ruby Tuesday, Last Time, Not Fade Away, Paint It Black, Sympathy for the Devil, Wild Horses, Start Me Up, and Shan't Always Get
what you want.
And then you've got 19th Nervous Breakdown, which is sort of like on the cusp. And then there's the four to play, because they're all good songs, but they wouldn't make my top 10.
No. Have we impressed you with the Stones and all the number of songs that have been mentioned, Jeff?
What I was a little shocked myself as to how many of them I actually liked. Because I will never go to play them. I just don't.
Wouldn't want to see them live, either.
I'd love to see them live.
You would, yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah,
amazing.
Well, I love seeing anybody live, and we're probably running out of time with most of them. But yeah, no, I'd love to see them live. They would be fantastic. Jagger is like a showman to the nth degree.
He gets around, doesn't he, for an 80-year-old?
He does get around for an 80-year-old, but there are frontmen and showmen who just hold the stage, and I have no doubt that Jagger is one of them.
Yeah.
Freddie Mercury was one of them.
Freddie Mercury would be another one, I would guess, if he's still around. Yeah. Yeah. We saw the Stones Wembley '86, I think it was. At the funnily enough, the Steel Wheels tour. Was it '86? I think it was.
I think it was '82. The one that they did Still Life from. That was about '82. I think I saw them at Wembley.
All right, no, '89 Steel Wheels it was. So we were a bit later than you then. Yeah, because In Excess was supporting them, and I thought at the time Michael Hutchence is a bit of a Jagger.
Yes.
In his look and his manner.
His physique as well is very, very.
Yeah. That's what I thought. But it was a good show.
Huey Lewis and the News supported them when I saw them at Wembley, and Black Uhuru. So dipped totally, in reggae, and then I saw them at Twickenham as well a few years ago, and I've seen them in a couple of other places as well. Saw them at Hyde Park, Twickenham. It was the Charlatans supported them, which is like really random, and Paolo Nutini. But
I like Paolo Nutini.
Yeah, great singer, great songwriter. Yeah. Were they not supposed to appear at the Spurs Stadium? Was that this year?
That's supposedly rumoured. There's a block of dates booked out in June, but they haven't announced who it is yet. But the Stones are rumoured to be in this summer. So
I thought they said no, it's going to be put back to next year. Maybe I'm thinking of another band.
I don't know, but
I can't remember either.
Yeah, there's a block of dates towards the end of June that have been reserved for a major act.
Oh, interesting.
I can't imagine Keith Richards be able to play for very much longer. Like, have you seen the state of his fingers?
Are they sticky?
They're very sticky. they are completely gnarled. Like they're like, you know how you get rheumatism or arthritis in your knuckles. Yeah. They're completely gnarled. I don't know how he still plays.
Well,
he's been doing it for about 5 years, hasn't he? So.
Yeah, when he does his songs, when he sings occasionally, his voice he mumbles now.
Right.
So it's not great when he does it. I think it was it the O2 I saw them at last time, and he just sat on stage and it was mumbling, sadly. But
Big fan. You've seen him a few times. You're a big fan.
yeah, about 5 times I've seen him.
All right. Okay. Well, shall we end it there? I think we will. We finished a little bit early. That's good. We got through all the Stone songs we want to get through. I'll be playing a few of these, no doubt, tomorrow on the show on CBW Radio at 8 a.m. UK time. That'll be 3 a.m. Eastern if you're up. And some of mine, some of Neil's, and maybe some of Jeff's thrown in as well, if he's able to connect and he's not driving through the Epping Forest or wherever it is, which does tend to be not great for the connection on the wireless. But yeah, we'll do it. That'll be good fun. Well, thanks anyway for you turning up eventually, Jeff. It's been
Sorry about that, guys. Sorry about that.
That's all right. And thanks, Neil, as usual. And I don't know. I think Stinks is back next week. We'll see. I texted him today, and he was in a Chinese restaurant in Utrecht when I spoke to him. On his way back, on his way to Amsterdam. So he's obviously in Holland.
He must be. I did not know that. So,
or the Netherlands, if you prefer. I don't know which you prefer.
Holland is an area of the Netherlands, isn't it?
Oh, okay.
Yes, yeah. The Netherlands includes all the little islands at the top.
It does. Yeah, it'll be like saying he's in Essex, not in London, in England.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Here's a trivia question for you. Do you know which country in the world has got the most islands?
Canada.
Sweden.
It is Sweden. He knew the answer to that. It isn't Canada, but it is Sweden. I don't know how many. They've probably got thousands of them.
Yeah. I think Stockholm's built on about 40 or 50 islands, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, well, I thought I'd throw that bit of trivia in for you. You learn something every day.
Every day is a school day.
Every day is still a school day. Right. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much, guys. This podcast will be posted to the usual places. Spotify is the main one, or other platforms that are available if you want to look at it on that or listen to it on that. This will be on YouTube for goodness knows how long, and it will be on our Facebook Record, off the Record Facebook page, and probably on Twitter for a little while as well, or even X, whatever you want to call it. We've excreted it on there as well, so all is good. And of course, one day we will be on the BBC, as we keep saying. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on, X, we're on Facebook. One day we will be on the red button. Pete will be on the red button, I'm sure. And yeah, all I've got to say is thanks again, guys, and it's a good night from me.
And it's a good night from him.
Is that a double?
It was a double take.
Excellent stuff.